patrons, welcome to the next tutorial, which is going to be of this nice beautiful eye. So if you want to get access to this reference photo, then you'd have to purchase it from stockphotos.com, but I'll have the link to where you can purchase the reference photo in the description below. And this photograph I think is a very good photograph for us to learn from because of all the detailing that you can see in the photograph. So you can see everything from the tiniest little red veins, every single eyelash. You can see the beautiful colors in the iris, and there's a lot of detailing work in there, and it's so nice to be able to draw an eye and get it to look really glossy and smooth and beautiful. So I want to show you guys how to do that, and then it's just something really useful to learn. And also, the bigger you draw something, the more detail you're able to put into it. So I'm going to show you what sort of detailing you can get when you draw large. So I usually like to draw much bigger because I'm able to get so much detail in there. The smaller you draw, the harder it is to get the detail in there. But then again, the larger you draw, the longer it's going to take to finish the drawing. So it really depends on how much time you're willing to spend on a drawing to discover what sort of size you want, unless someone, of course, is paying you to do a specific size as a commission. So the eye is such a beautiful eye, and the first part of this tutorial is going to be all about value. So we're not going to focus too much on colors. I'll still have the colors listed above so you guys know which colors I'm using at all times. I'm sure you can tell by now by the sound of my voice that I haven't been quite well for the last couple of days, but I can't leave this any longer before I start the next tutorial. So I'm going to jump in and I'm just going to start, and hopefully you can forgive the sound of my voice because I know that it can be a little bit difficult to listen to if I sound all sort of blocked up. But yeah. And the downfall about that is that this is going to be in my tutorial for the rest of the time that the tutorial's up, which is not what I want, but I can't wait any more days before I continue on. So yes. Anyway, so let's jump into the first part of the tutorial where we are going to focus on value. Hi guys, welcome to the next tutorial. So the next tutorial we're going to do is this eye. So what I've done is I've printed the eye in black and white, and I have used a graphite stick like this. So I've taken the graphite stick out of this cardboard casing, and I colored in the entire back area of the print like that, and then that is what I put over my drawing paper, and then I used the sharp etching tool to get the outline onto my drawing paper, and this is what it looks like now. So I just did the eye, and because I used the etching tool, I was able to get all those beautiful soft lashes, and it took me 10 minutes to do it, which saved me so much time. If I were to do this freehand, it would have taken me about 2 hours. So that is what I did, and the reason I use the graphite stick is because I do not like using the graphite paper. The graphite paper tends to stick to your drawing paper. It doesn't erase as easily, and it kind of wants to smudge around a lot more. So I prefer to use a graphite stick and use the side of the stick because it covers a large area quickly and it's just easier to erase. Because right now a lot of these lines in the eye are a little bit too dark, so I want to use my eraser to lighten them up before I get started. Now the paper that I am using is a sheet of this Fabriano Shizzi sketching paper. So it's the Accademia one. I'll put a link down below, or put the names and that in here. And this is the 56-pound paper, or 120 GSM. So this paper is a bit smoother than the Arches watercolor paper, and that is okay because we aren't doing as much texture as we would on a furry animal. So the layering I don't think would be as extreme, although looking at the eye, the layering is going to be quite a lot of layering, but the smooth paper is still going to be fine for that. So the color pencils that I'm going to be using are my Polychromos, my Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, and my brand new set of the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. So I won't be using Prismas for this one. I want to try out these new pencils, and then I want to see how well they compare to the Prismas. Yes, I'm very excited. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Tombow eraser, and I'm just going to lighten up some of these lines. just because a lot of them are just a little bit too dark. So the first part of this tutorial is going to be really easy because all we're going to do is we're going to use two colors. We're going to use a black and a dark blue, and we are going to create the values throughout the whole eye, just to pinpoint all the different values, and then we'll worry about the color later. So the eyelashes are black. I'm not too worried about them, so they can stay like that. And then let's get started. Okay, so the first color we're going to start off with is our black polychromos, and we are going to lightly fill in this very dark part of the pupil. So looking at the reference, it's not completely round. We do have darker areas just on the side of it. The eyelashes are going to be the last thing we're going to look at. So if you're going to do areas where the under the eyelashes, it's okay, you can work over that. And if you kind of need to remember where those eyelashes are, then you can lightly go over them like this with your black polychromos pencil. But only if you're not quite sure where they are, if they start disappearing into the background. Okay, now I am going to take my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencil number 508, the Payne's Grey, and I am going to lightly fill in the rest of the round part of the pupil. So I can see that there are lashes over here. So we got this one and this one. And then there's a lash over here. So just next to the side of these lashes here. We also have that value. Now, I'm not making harsh edges because if you look at the reference photo, the edge of the iris is actually quite soft, so you don't just want a straight line. So we're going to want to end up with a gradation from dark to sort of light along the edges. So try not to go too dark right around the edge. See, I'm using such a light hand, very, very light hand to, I'm barely touching the paper with a pencil, but I just want to get that hint of color down. So that's the beauty about value, is that you can get different values with one pencil just by using different pressures. And there's a highlight over here, so we don't want to go over that section now. Not with this dark color. So this line we drew over here is to show us where the highlight is in the eye. So we just want to go to that sort of border. You don't want to go further than that because we know that that color is a lot lighter. I'm not worried about detailing at this point, but we are going to get to a point in this drawing where we are really going to have to use our observation skills. Okay, now I really want to pay attention to these dark values between the yellow parts of the eye. Try and have your reference photo, if you're looking at your reference on your iPad, try and have it roughly the same size. Because if you zoom in too much and have a very large zoom on your iPad compared to your drawing, it's easy to actually exaggerate the size on your actual reference photo. So if you have it roughly the same size on your iPad, then you will find that you just tend to draw the right size automatically. Okay, so I want to actually get these eyelashes in because it can be easy to get confused if you start drawing over them, because the eyelashes are actually a reference point for you to find certain areas within the iris. So I'm using my black Faber-Castell Polychromos pencil, and I'm going to start putting in these lashes. So they go from thick to thin. You don't want them to be completely the same thickness throughout. And we're not doing this for all the lashes, we're just doing these lashes that are over the iris. Pay close attention to your reference, because if you do the lashes right, it's really going to help you find the right areas within the iris. Okay, that's about all we need for now. Now we want to have an indication of where the reflection is within the pupil. Make sure you have a very sharp pencil because these lines are quite fine. Now these reflection lines of the lashes you want to do lightly because they have the highlight on them. Okay, now that we have those lashes down, it's going to be easier for us to work out different values within this top section of the eye. So for example, we want to do the value areas in this area here. So we're going to use these two lashes as a reference point and work between these lashes and these lashes according to what we can see on our reference photo. So still using my black, I'm going to lightly shade in the darker areas that I can see over there. So know that from this point to about this part of the eye, there is a tiny sort of light blue spot there. So I want to create a bit of a darker value around that. Right next to these lashes there's a spot over there. And then there's a sort of shape like this over here. And then just under the eyelid there's a shadow as well. Okay, now we're going to use our blue again. Our 508 Payne's Grey, which is sort of like a bluey grey. We're going to add that to the black we added in this area. And then I want to work more on this area here. So paying attention to my reference, I can see almost, I don't know, I keep wanting to say squiggly shapes, but you want to just sort of see. If you go over some of the areas that are meant to be lighter, that's okay. That's the beauty about layering with wax pencils, is that if we don't layer too much, we would be able to put the lighter colors over the top. So right next to these sort of squiggly lashes over here, there is quite a big dark area here, sort of shaped like almost like a heart. Then at the sort of triangular point of the highlight over here, we can see more of a darker sort of shape over here. So you just want to work in tiny little areas, tiny little fractions of areas, and try and find something unique as a reference point, or something small to sort of find out where exactly that shape belongs, or where that value belongs. And remember, it doesn't have to be 100% correct. Like no one's going to get it that good. And why would you want to? You want your drawing to be sort of unique. So those differences are very important in your own work. Plus, it wouldn't be fun if you had to get every single detail 100% correct. I don't think so. Okay, just above these two lashes over here, there's quite a dark area as well. Sort of like that. And this is a little bit of a thicker shadow. And then between these lashes, there seems to be like a triangular dark area here. Almost linking to that heart-shaped area we did earlier. So just above these lashes over here, there's almost lines going in this direction. Don't go too far across here because that's got more yellow than blue. Okay, I really like the look of that. So now let's do the rest of this section over here. So I can see that from that triangular point of the highlight over there, I can move a little more down and start seeing the different values. And then if I just make sure I'm always looking at my reference, I know how to move down and carry on adding those values that I can see. Okay, so now there's a highlighted area over here. So we want to be very careful that we don't go too dark. So we're just going to go to the other side of that highlight. Remember, you don't want a harsh edge, like there's a gradation here. So just be careful. And you create soft circular strokes like this. No harsh edges, because we want to show that there's going to be a gradation from a darker blue to a lighter one. Okay, I really like that. Okay, before I carry on with the iris, I want to start finding values around the eye. So I'm using my Faber-Castell Polychromos Burnt Sienna number 283. And I'm going to erase any, as you go, erase any graphite lines that you think are just a little bit too dark. Especially when you're doing flesh colors or skin tones, like you don't want the graphite to come through in the bottom. But you still want a very light indication of where it is, which makes it easier for you to find, which makes it more accurate. If you find that your eyelash lines are going to disappear behind the color, then go in with your black polychromos pencils and start making them darker. Now, this area of the eye is quite textured because you can actually see so much detail. You can sort of see how textured the skin is, the creases and that. So, sort of, each one doesn't have to be exact, but create that texture. Don't just color it in. Hi there, baby. You're bumping the camera. Honey, come here. Come. Lie down here. Lie down. Okay, now I'm going to use my Faber-Castell Polychromos Terracotta color number 186. And I want to add those warm orange values in around the eye. Use a soft hand, use circular motions if you don't want to get harsh edges. And if you're unsure why I'm doing a certain area the way I am, then have a good look at your reference photo in the area that I'm working on, and you should understand why I'm doing things the way I'm doing it. I'm always looking at my reference photo, always paying close attention. Now I'm going to come in with my Caran d'Ache number 30, which is orange. And I want to add some orange shapes in this area of the eye. If you see an area that's more orange than it is yellow, then only do those, don't do the yellow areas. Okay, before I carry on, I think I actually want to blend a little bit with my solvent. Now, I know you're thinking that this is probably so early to be blending. Usually we blend after a few more layers, but this is actually still going to help bring out the value of the blue area, all the grays. So I want to soften that up. Make sure the edges are nice and soft. Try not to go over the black too much, because you don't want to have that sort of smudge into it. Remember, you have very little on your brush. You don't have much on your brush at all. So dab it off onto your paper towel or cloth first. See how that transition is starting to look nice and soft and smooth? That's what you want. So only blend the areas you've colored. Don't blend the other areas that don't have any color in them. It won't really do much. It'll make the page look dirty for a little bit, and then once it dries it should go away. So it's not the end of the world if you get solvent on your paper that hasn't got color on. So the reason that I stopped at the orange, sorry I kind of just jumped along there, is that I don't want to add the color yet. I just want to get the values down with the blues and the grays first in the iris, and then get the values down with the skin tones before I start adding any sort of detailing. Okay, that's starting to look pretty cool already. I'm going to use a bigger brush, this one, which is a number 4 West Art brush, and I'm going to blend the skin tone areas. I love blending with silver, and I just love it when the pigment just comes out. It's gonna dry lighter, so don't worry if it almost looks like it's too wet or too dark, because it is still wet, so just give it a few seconds to dry and it will all lighten up a little. When it comes to these textured areas, just dab them. Okay, and that is going to be part 1 of the first tutorial. So in the next one, we are just going to keep adding value, keep adding color, and just gradually build up, build up, build up, until we've built up so much that we're satisfied with the outcome of the eye. It's really just like that. Okay. So something that we've learned is that you really need to be very observant, pay extra attention to your reference photo, and try and find other reference marks to help you find specific areas. Like, the iris can be quite tricky because there's so many different shapes and different values in there, and they're so all over the place and they're so tiny. You're like, where do I put this dark shape? Or where do I put this light shape? Or things like that. So that's when you want to pay extra attention to different indications on your reference photo that could help you find these points. Like for instance, I put that spot there in the wrong area. It should actually be there. And the way I found out that I put it in the wrong spot is because I looked at this reference. I made this spot my reference point, and it was directly under it. When I first put it down, I was like, no, it's not directly under that spot, which means I put this spot in the wrong spot. It should be over there. So before you're too hasty to put a mark down that you're not sure about, make sure you find something else around that can sort of help guide you as to where to put that mark. And if you don't put the marks in the right space, like I'm not going to try and erase that mark now, because that'd be a waste of my time, because it's too hard to erase colored pencils. So I'm just going to make it work. I'm just going to blend it in like I'm going to blend in the rest of the iris, and it's going to look natural. It's going to look like it actually belongs there. So if I make mistakes, I take advantage of the mistakes and I make them look like they belong there, instead of trying to fix them or take them away, or like, oh no, I stuffed up the image. You haven't. These things are going to happen, and they still happen to me all the time, and I just try and work around it and make it unique. I think mistakes make it unique, and I like it. Okay, so that's it for part 1, and then I will see you guys in the next one soon.